Once I discovered the thrill of aviation, I knew that I wanted to focus on introducing aviation early on to young girls.
As strong and enduring as the Rocky Mountains they stood beside, as visionary as the views of the Grand Plains they looked across, the women inducted into the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame are trailblazers whose work has improved and enriched our lives. They are teachers, scientists, ranchers, leaders in business, education, religion, and the arts. Women who have been recognized for their many contributions to our state, our country, and the world. I'm Renelda Muse, and these are the stories of great Colorado women.
Well, first of all, she was born in Altoona, Pennsylvania, in a very poor Irish family.
I was only 3 pounds 2 ounces when I was born. So this was a miracle in 1948 that I survived. I had a very chaotic childhood. My father was an alcoholic, and we came from a very small Catholic family, so I went to Catholic school. The nuns were very important to me because they were strong women who had very significant roles, and they taught me that through structure and focus, almost anything was possible.
The only way she got to college was she got a scholarship to Temple University. And she's taken advantage of every time she could earn some college credits, and she finally got her bachelor's, master's, and her PhD.
My degrees were first a registered dental hygienist or a tooth fairy, and that's, again, I focused on pediatric dentistry, and I would dress up as the tooth fairy. And then the Columbia College degree is a bachelor's in education. My master's is in adult and continuing ed, and my doctoral degree, surprise, is communication. After graduating, then I went to work for the military, and then I met Bill.
Well, at the Naval War College, I was a student there, and one of my additional duties was to teach sailing, and one day she and some other people came on board my sailboat, and I could see after a while that she needed private lessons, and so that's how that got started. We got married in the United States and went immediately to Mainz, West Germany.
He is someone who joined the military to be able to be outdoors, and he loves hiking, he loves anything with adventure. He's a master parachutist.
I think before I met Penny, I was sort of single-dimensional, focused just on the military.
He met someone who didn't have that kind of background, and through him I was able to learn to accept adventure and really seek adventure.
I had no idea that this 23-year-old beauty queen that I had married was such a force of nature, and whenever she saw something needed fixing, she fixes it. We were in the mess hall and she said, "Boy, this is really Spartan and drab." And next thing I know, she had organized the wives to bake cookies and even sell wine, and they raised a whole bunch of money, and they redecorated the mess hall, and it looked like Olive Garden when they got done. Besides the mess hall, somehow they sent us some non-airborne troops that we had to put through parachute training. And that went very well, except 6 of the soldiers refused to jump out of the 34-foot tower. And I happened to mention it to Penny, and she said, "I can fix that." And so she recruits a friend from the other battalion, and they jump out of the 34-foot tower in front of the entire battalion, and she shames the 6 into coming up there and jumping, and so they eventually got their wings. The other thing is we had about 100 warrant officer pilots in our unit, and they were about to be thrown out of the Army because they only had high school education, and they had been recruited for the Vietnam War, and it was winding down. So I said, "These kids need some college credit." And she said, "Well, let's organize a branch of some college." And so we got the University of Maryland to authorize us to teach college-level courses to these young pilots, and we kept them from being thrown out.
We came to Colorado almost 30 years ago because we felt, having lived all over the world, this is where we wanted to live.
At the same time, we formed an advertising public relations firm called Advanced Research Institute. And one of our clients was the world's largest pilot organization, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. And we had about 11,000 members in Colorado. And the other 6 or 7 states, we only had 2,000 or 3,000 members. So it made sense for us to move where we had the most members.
Living in Colorado is so inspiring because we have gorgeous scenery, we have clean air, and we chose Grand County because it's like living in a postcard. We call our home Splendid Isolation because in the winter it can get a bit tricky, but they do a great job with the roads because they have to get the tourists to the ski slopes. I was on the Chamber of Commerce board, yes, and I think that's one of the reasons they gave me their Lifetime Achievement Award.
As Mitch Jelnicka reports this week, 7 Everyday Hero makes sure everyone in Granby knows the town's brush with aviation fame.
It's not every day children get a visit from Amelia Earhart, but in Granby, Colorado, it's quite common. She's known as Penny the Pilot. Penny Hamilton has volunteered to help kids get excited about aviation, math, science, and reading for more than 20 years. Penny is a pilot herself and never misses a chance to promote aviation or the town of Granby. A cancer survivor, she also spends countless hours helping that cause.
I mean, she's not sort of just following the curve. She sees what's needed and then goes in there and tackles it.
I think volunteering, whatever you give, you get back many times.
Penny, for all your volunteering, teaching these kids over the years, we'd like to make you a 7 Everyday Hero.
Oh,
Congratulations. She's an enormously hard worker. Anytime there's a need, she wants to fill it. That's just her nature. And the lesson I would take from her life is you see something wrong, fix it.
One of the reasons I enjoy volunteering is because anyone who is given a lot, much will be expected. And so everywhere we've lived, I was either president of the American Red Cross, president of the Army Community Service, president of the Humane Society. So in Grand County, as a smaller community, it's really important that we have a lot of doers. And you work with about the same people in many organizations. But I'm the founder of Grand County Pet Pals, which we started out with pennies for pets, because tourists didn't want to carry all that change around. And so we had jars all over for people to donate, and 100% of those proceeds went to spay and neuter. So Grand County Pet Pals is one of my very big accomplishments in Greene County.
Her interests are so broad, so diverse, that I've just followed her along.
I have a career in real estate here in Colorado. I was Grand County Realtor of the Year. I was a radio personality. I was a weekly, like Dear Abby, columnist. I was in weekly newspapers where I would do special sections. I do have trouble with no. I got started in aviation because I was married to a pilot.
We're flying around 7 different states working for this client, and I'm doing all the flying. And then one day we come home and Penny says, I'm going to learn to fly. And I said, why do you want to learn to fly? And she said, because when you're not here, these pilots call and they ask aviation questions, and I know the same answer that you would give them, but then they ask if I'm a pilot, and then they just discount whatever I've said. So I'm going to become a pilot.
And I thought, well, after I got my PhD, I had a full-time job, I was over 40, I can do this. So I had a wonderful flight instructor and got my private certificate. And through that, I learned all kinds of history of aviation and how many women had already been in aviation, but I wasn't aware of them. Then when I started focusing on aviation and that niche and women's history, I was able to write a chapter in an international textbook called Absent Aviators, which is why are there so few women pilots? And what it showed were the barriers that do exist for women in aviation. And a lot of time, it's that women are not taught that they can fly and how the machine works. The machine doesn't know if you're male or female, and you control the machine. You learn the instruments and you literally float from the ground because of a number of rules of science. But it can be a spiritual part of your life because you are above the earth. You're free.
Roger, runway 17 left, turn right, heading at 320, cleared for takeoff, wind 200 at 15.
The world's aviation speed record was a joy because Bill and I set it, as we have done everything in almost our, 40 plus years of marriage, as partners.
Okay, the time is 8:25, and we're going to set the world record here.
It takes the best for you in planning as a pilot. It makes you want to fly your airplane to its maximum safe potential. And so we were able to take off, and the FAA, Federal Aviation Administrators, certified when we left, and at the end of it, they certified that, again, our time was the best ever and still stands today.
She launched a campaign to get more people knowledgeable about small planes, general aviation, and it was so successful that the FAA gave her a public relations award.
The way the Federal Aviation Administration champions aviation education is by looking at someone's work, and every year each region, and the FAA has a number of regions, they give the award, and then those regional winners compete for the national award. And it's quite prestigious, and I was honored way back in the 80s to get that award.
She's really focused on getting more people to fly in Colorado and to fly safely. In fact, she works so hard at it that the FAA is named a navigation intersection.
In the sky, it's just like, I-70, I-76, I-25. We have what they call airways in the sky.
It's right over the town of Tabernash at 15,500 feet, and it's the Penny intersection. That's very unusual because those are usually named for people that are dead, not alive.
I knew the minute I met that lady that there was something different about her, because her eyes lit up the day that she walked into our museum, and I could tell this lady had a lot of ideas and wasn't afraid to share them.
She's heavily involved in aviation history, trying to preserve it in any way she can. And she does that with a gusto that is hard to match.
Her encouragements to all people, kids and adults, will help advance aviation history. She's somebody that has changed the way that I look personally at saving history, and I try to do the same, thanks to Penny.
Early in the 1990s, there was a recognized need for an aviation trade show, and we created one called the Rocky Mountain Air Fair. At that event, we had an issue of what to do with the kids that would be attending. We created a lot of little aviation activities, flight simulators, building rockets, building model aircraft. Penny was doing somewhat the same thing, and she did it with a bit of humor. She created herself as Penny the pilot, and Penny the pilot wore a uniform and helmet and goggles.
And we first pretend we're airplanes, and we're very, we get into the physical part of it. And you can impress early on to them opportunities in any career field.
But she appealed to the imagination of kids, if you will. What a marvelous way to attract their attention. Penny was able to do that.
It started out, of course, one of my degrees is pediatric communication. And so I love children. And I know how important it is to start early with any subject. Once I discovered the thrill of aviation and the opportunities out there for women, I knew that I wanted to focus on women in aviation and then introducing that early on to young girls. I work with preschoolers, and that's how early it has to start. And I have young girls come up to me today and say, "Can women be pilots? Can a girl be a pilot?" And I say, "Sure." Then I show them pictures, and then I tell them I am. Because if they have that door open to them early on, then they're more likely to see it as an option. If they never see that they can be an astronaut or they can be a space engineer, then they're not going to pursue those fields. And so I wanted to be involved early on in education, and through that, then aviation education and women's history education, because women contributed all along in aviation early on. The Wright brothers, their sister, was very important to being able to allow them to experiment. She literally ran the shop and gave them money from her teaching salary. But there are people even in Colorado who are mentors to other women in aviation. It was Emily Warner who has become so important to my life. And she is America's first female airline captain.
I knew they were close. Anytime they were coming to Denver, they would carpool. They would work together on projects with the Historical Society.
Early on, we were partners in an airplane. We were from the same community. And I had no idea how world famous she was until I went to a convention and people were throwing their coats on me. I was like hanging there while people were getting their picture with Emily, the Sky Star. And here was my partner. But she was so humble, and I learned that from her.
There's a huge, deep connection and friendship that you could see instantly between those two. And there was a point in time that it was important for Penny to honor Emily.
And she helped put together something very permanent. It's the Emily Warner Field Aviation Museum. It's become quite a tourist attraction, educational attraction in Grand County. But probably the cleverest thing she did was she got the Grand County Historical Association to assume the ownership of it. So after she and I are gone, this museum's going to live forever.
It's a huge impact to not just the community of Granby or to Emily Warner and her family, but to the state of Colorado. Penny's greatest legacy will be how she has inspired generations of kids that as they grow up, they will know they can do anything they dream.
Penny has made it a personal objective to try to increase the number of females in aviation. She's written a book on it. She's done research studies on it. She preaches on it. She is such an advocate. I admire her as one of her major accomplishments. I'd point to that one.
Many years ago, let's see, how many years? It's been almost 40 now that I've been in aviation, and I'm just now writing books like Colorado Sky Stars, because we had a number of performers early on in aviation. And then I started writing books like Local History, Around Granby, Granby Then and Now. My new children's book is called A to Z, Your Grand County History Alphabet. Then 1001 Inspirational Thoughts for and by real women in aviation. So it's not only thoughts or stories that women who have been there, It's for the women who are currently there.
I have 2 daughters that are both interested in aviation, and they look to female heroes, aviation heroes, as their inspiration to advance their careers in flying. And Penny has done a great job. She's not afraid to jump in as a board member, as the president to run the board and organize and fundraise. The kids pay attention to that, adults pay attention to that, women pay attention to that. And we're proud here at the Spirit of Flight Museum to do our part to advance women in aviation. And Penny is a huge part of that effort.
Well, my greatest legacy is being a breast cancer survivor twice. The first diagnosis was in 2008. My first reaction was, do we know the pathologist? This can't be, we got to get a better pathologist. This can't be true. No, I'm moving on with my life. So it became true. And based on the new research, I was able to take the latest treatment. And of course, I learned the language because this is a foreign language. And you do have to be able to communicate and be partners with your care team in order to have a successful outcome.
And she really showed me that her attitude was something that could continue to give her life and to push her forward and push others forward, encourage others that it's something you may be faced with and you do the best you can. You fight, you don't quit. Penny's a fighter.
She's one of the most spiritual persons that I've ever known. She really prays a lot about what she's about to do. She is very concerned about people who are sick, ill, and she spends a lot of time praying for them.
I started the Ribbons of Hope campaign in Grand County where we raised money and we have a resource library for people, because you're thrown into this health situation that most of us don't want to know about, and once we're in it we better learn it because there's a whole language and there are things you need to know. So the second one is I'm still in the second battle, and it has been harder because I'm a little older. But the technology is better, and so that would be my biggest legacy, is being a breast cancer survivor twice.
Her adversity has shown me through my adversity that life moves on. And so we push forward no matter what kind of event that we are faced with.
What I have to remember is that today is a gift, and we can always heal the past, we can look to the future, but all we have is right now, and that is why it is called the present. In fact, that's really an important one to me, that I have this small package that sits on my desk and it has a big white bow on it.
And the opportunity that we're given in life is once in a lifetime.
Her energy level that she projects with the other Hall of Fame members, with the Aviation Historical Society and other pilots, when you're talking to her, meeting with her, that energy level comes through every time.
And I think that's her best trait, is that she changes a room. She changes a person's life with a why not attitude instead of I can't.
And it's a wonderful feeling to have someone around you that has such inspiration and ideas and challenges and questions and pushing everyone to do their best. And that's the feeling I get with her.
Penny Hamilton is one of those people that motivates me to do more. She told me once that you have one shot on this earth, so make an impact. Go big, make a difference. And I take those words, and I take her friendship very seriously, and I'm proud to have her as one of my friends.